No pandemic can be fought alone. The COVID-19 crisis is about much more than a virus. It's about how we live together as a human race in a shrinking and increasingly interconnected, crowded world where a microbe on one side of the planet can show up on the other side within hours and trigger a pandemic. A virus is no respecter of person, gender, nationality, status, or border. No one is truly safe unless everyone is safe. We must, as a global community, put aside our differences and unite. I believe this is possible. At least what I know for sure is that there's more to unite us than that which divides us. Nowhere is unity more urgently needed than in Africa, the most balkanized region of the world in terms of geography and institutionally. I am encouraged that Africa, with initiatives such as the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, is becoming one. Now more than ever, we need to be one.
In general, the numbers in Africa compared to other parts of the world is still relatively low, but it's growing, and we are watching the numbers very closely to ensure that our response is tailored to ensure that the numbers remain low.
The good news this time is that we have an African institution who will be dealing with all the issues related to health emergency and pandemic. You have the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, based in Addis Ababa, which is now the African entity, the vehicle to help us deal not only with this current pandemic, but we all know that we probably will have more pandemic. And it's good this time that we have an institution who will be vigilant, but also get the government ready for the next one.
We have known the horizontal infection and then the vertical infection. I mean, most African countries were okay until travelers from foreign nations came in and brought in this virus. That is the horizontal infection, vertical infection. But now we need to protect the vertical infection.
As far as the COVID is concerned, this is an enemy that has no boundaries. It is an enemy that we need to realize that as humanity, it's always easier to unite against a common enemy. So this time is calling for all of us as humanity to come together and speak with one voice.
There's been too many rumors flying around with information that is incorrect, and this is resulting in complications of our response, supporting governments to be able to provide good information.
Unfortunately, we have a situation where there's a lot of stigma going on. People are stigmatizing everybody who may have had a disease, or even to the extent that some people who have even tested for the disease are being stigmatized. We've had a situation where not all the contacts are willing to isolate themselves in order to suppress disease transmission.
But let's face it, Africa is not ready. I was looking at a report as late as 2 weeks ago. There are about 10 countries in Africa that don't have a single ventilator. So let's be realistic. On a given day, the average African country does not have what the country needs to take care of the basic ailments that the citizens are going to present to medical facilities for. So in the situation of a pandemic, we really need to realize that we have a long way to go and everybody must play their part.
We are tracking people, we are testing them, and then we're also placing those who are identified to be cases on treatment. Healthcare workers have been trained, The health system has been supported and equipped. Adequate personal protective equipment have been provided to these people to make sure that there's a response from the health worker front.
Because this fund is to address only the commodity needs, test kits, mask, PPP, PPA, and then we'll deal later on with more issues to support the most vulnerable community.
We should rely on the people, not just having the people to do what we are asking them to do.
Africa needs about $15 billion to just manage the healthcare crisis that we have. Our economies have been severely hit. The ECF projects that what we're going to do, what we will see is a 1.8% drop in GDP, and this is in the best case scenario. Of course, we don't yet know when this is going to end. So what we are asking for, what we're calling the international community to do, is to see whether we can get a fiscal stimulus of about $100 billion. But this is in addition and on top of what African governments have already done. The government of Ghana, up until today, has already put in $700 million of stimulus. The government of Cote d'Ivoire, $2.8 million, and on. Egypt, $6.3 million. Of course, South Africa with $27 billion. So quite an amount of resources have gone into our different economies.
Well, some churches may be empty to start with, but with time will fill up because people still have the fears about social distancing and about keeping, your space so that you don't get the contamination. So some people will have cold feet in wanting to come to church immediately. The churches are not going to be swelling full immediately. They are going to take time. But then what we have to accept is that the culture of managing church and doing church has changed because an e-community has been created, whether we like it or not.
As you know, we were supposed to start trading the 1st of July. The Secretariat of the CFTA was supposed to also be in place in Accra. And a new Secretary General has been appointed by the AU. So I think the machinery is in place, but there's still some discussion that need to take place in terms of negotiation among the countries. And we believe that we shouldn't postpone starting the process trading in July 1st. What we could do is for countries to negotiate even through Zoom, as we are doing now with your interview, and get a Chamber of Commerce and many organizations ready for the process. Because this crisis shows clearly that we need to create our industrial capacity and trade among ourselves. This is the most resilient tool that we have to also prepare for the next challenges, whether it's pandemic or climate change. So I think it's important for this crisis not to overshadow the need to go for the Continental Free Trade Agreement, because this will be the best caution and enable African countries to create jobs, to enable people to move and goods, and to be ready for whatever the cycle that can come in terms of crisis in the future.
COVID is real. We need to take it seriously. We need to obey the instructions that we get from our CDC, the Africa CDC and our national CDCs. Wash hands, be clean, sanitize, wear masks, protect yourself so you can protect other people.
Join me on Dominion TV for yet another special feature, COVID-19, Africa's Response and Solutions.